Hello, possums. Look at this. It's a happy face. Amazing, our election results. I'm still a bit high and delirious because we were hoping, we were fairly confident that Labor, i.e., your Dems, would get in, but we didn't expect this. It was absolute carnage for the Conservatives. So, thanks to the Yeti, I'm sure there are other factors in there, not the least of which is it's the first time with our demographic that young people made up the majority of voters. Up until now, it's been baby boomers, young people. So there were lots of things that went into the mix, but it was so quick. They lost more seats, the Conservatives, than they've ever lost before. Extraordinary. The relief. Canadians will know what I mean by the relief as much as the joy. But now it's half a day later. I'm almost suffering from survivor guilt, feeling for you guys. But we have to take the joy where it comes. And oh my God. Now, for future reference, our Prime Minister's name is Albanese, which is an Italian name, and we bastardize it with our Australian accents and make it Albanese, but even shorter because Australians like to shorten things, Albo, right? So for the last 4 years, he's been Albo in Australia. So now the joke is elbows up. I don't even like Albo, but look, he's better than Voldemort, who was the opposition. So we'll see. In 6 weeks, we'll all be moaning and carrying on about what Labor's doing. But look, between now and then, major relief. Okay, now settle down, Lena. Let's start with something light and frothy like Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? Oh, she's so grotesque. Anyway, the point is, MTG is upset with the Yeti. We didn't vote for foreign wars. Sorry, I give her an Australian accent. We didn't vote for foreign wars. So, in other words, MAGA, and as she says often, I speak for the base, I speak for the base, they're not happy about, threats to take on Iran or even invade Venezuela and these other things. They're not happy about that. Weird. You think they'd love it, but no accounting for consistency with this group of people, right? But anyway, mercifully, for whatever reason, they're against foreign wars. So let's have a look at how that is playing out with the base. MTG's point, the base is not happy about foreign wars. And she went further and said, I actually only did the one vote ever with the Democrats for the continuing resolution because my president told me to, but I won't do it again. That's a bit defiant. So is this a thing with the base? Let's have a look. Foreign wars. Oh, cards are upside down. Interesting. It starts with a 10. Let's break this down, possums. Now, I think MAGA itself got there's something weird going on with the barometer today. I've got electricity in my hair. Now, they are under more pressure than they admit because suddenly they're not talking about grocery prices because it's their guy who's hiking them up. But they are feeling all sorts of things that are happening to them now, and this could be significant in the sense of some MAGAs, for their own rationale, are not happy with these foreign wars and could walk away. But let's not get too excited, walk away from MAGA, I mean. But let's not get too excited because there are other influences here. Look at these two cards in terms of being busy. 10 of Swords, 8 of Wands. Incoming. This is lots of things happening at the same time. And they're not the quickest of humans, so they're processing. And, my brother-in-law just lost his job as a trucker, and my cousin just lost their job at the wharf, and, my well-to-do cousins have lost their jobs as federal workers. They're reluctant to put it together. And every hour of the day, as we all know, there's something else. Okay, until now, they've stuck with him. This is the Lovers card. And because that's what I call a through line, some walking away, some staying with him. So it's not as though MAGA en masse is going to quite. Victory. Now, in this context, it could be that if American troops do engage more directly even than they are in other places, once there's a victory secured, they all go, oh, yeah, yeah, America's so powerful and wonderful. Could be that victory. But I don't think so. I think MTG is a loudmouth, and I think she could have a bit of a victory with this point of view. See, don't forget, we can never forget, they will be looking for an exit ramp as things get worse. And for many of them, I'm just thinking this now, it'll be things like this that they'll say, not because the man is a sadist and a cretin, they won't go there. No, but they could say, oh, I used to support Trump, but too many foreign wars. You know what I mean? It's like they're looking for supposedly the high ground on some issues as an excuse of breaking away because they can't look at the truth. Fascinating. All right. Now, Virginia. The governor of Virginia, Glenn Youngkin, has a lieutenant governor, John Reed. Now, apparently, John Reed was already an out gay man, but some explicit photos have turned up, which is making it a bit awkward. I don't know. I don't think they included him, but they were explicit. So the governor has asked him to resign as lieutenant governor. Now, it's interesting, people have been split in their reaction. Some are going, well, of course he has to resign, he's gay. I didn't know he was gay before, even though he hasn't hidden it. So this is an interesting development, yeah? He didn't hide it. Must be one of those log cabin gay men. It's weird. If anything was weird, it's the log cabin movement. Okay, so some are saying, well, yes, get rid of him. And others are saying, well, he's still a Republican. Hmm. So does party trump sexuality or not in places like Virginia? So let's just have a very quick look here at John Reed. And will he resign? Because he's saying, I'm not going to resign. See, it's time for the tide to turn. Remember all these people, you used to go if you were voted out. Remember those times? But there's been no vote here. What's going to happen with the John Reed, gay Lieutenant Governor of Virginia? Mhm. Um, okay, holding on. Here's temperance. This is sort of the card of balance and looking at both sides. And it can often mean in relation to the Republicans, they're more conservative values in a way. But look what turned up again, this Eight of Wands that I just described, plus the card of nostalgia. That could mean those who are looking back at the good old days when people knew they had to stay in the closet. Gee, America was great then, right? And holding on to those values, or is it John Reed holding on because he's refusing to go? I think we need a clarifier or something. They're caught between because straight Republicans are often caught in sexually inappropriate and even scandalous situations, and it's not enough to remove them usually. So is this a bridge too far for Virginians, or what's this Four of Pentacles about? All right. I think he has a bit of information, John Reed, on someone who has stolen money. I would say public money. This could give him a bit of bargaining power. Watch this space. How fascinating. And the temperance card at the beginning, it's like they don't like this, but they're more worried about that. There's a bit of a balancing thing going on here. Hmm. All right. Now, what I want to look at here, and then the next question's really gnarly about the Supreme Court. It's an absolute doozy. But let's have a look here. With everything that's happening, I wanted to have a look at the vibe in the White House. I'll use the Deviant Moon cards for this. Okay. So Pam Bondi's beginning to get that slightly haunted look they all get. And look, John Bolton, Bill Barr, all of these people who were part of the shenanigans, and then they leave and then they write books and carry on. Bill Barr, worse than shocking. All right, focus, Lena. What are we doing? We're doing the vibe in the White House. Particularly for me, it's around Vance and Rubio and that. Maybe Pam Bondi as well. Hmm. Let's see. Wheel of Fortune. Page one. Unfinished business. Yes, well. Wheel of Fortune. The card of karma, fate, and destiny, and all the big things. And they signed up for this. They signed up for this. And their fortunes now, as lawyers or politicians or whatever they are caught up. Their destiny is in the hands of the orangutan on roller skates in the White House. But they knew that. They're starting with the Seven of Wands to get a little bit freaked out, right? Page of Wands can be the compelling speaker, but this is sort of more gossip. You know, there's that expression walking on eggshells, around a person, particularly someone who's unpredictable and as violent as the Yeti. He's violent in the sense it's not hands-on because he's a physical coward, but he will wield destruction on you. So it's like they all feel they're on stilts. Isn't this a perfect metaphor? And that they could fall at any time. This is on how these people are feeling. Mm. Meanwhile, this could be Pam Bondi, but it represents all of them collectively in the sense, Mr. President, let me show you what wonderful things I've done in your name just today. Look, this is the dance they do around him while feeling actually like this. And they put on this face, and, this is Caroline Levitt and all of them too. But with this, the painting is being painted as we speak. The dual faces here, they have to show the two faces, Oh my God. Unfinished business. And this is also a very unstable structure. Very unstable structure. All right. Now, let's tackle this big one. So, first of all, May 13, what's the date today? It's the 4th here. May 13, the Court of International Trade is assembling to hear arguments that have been brought by several states and 5 individual companies in the US. And they're saying this lawsuit is saying that the tariffs were not legally authorized under the economic emergency powers that the Yeti used. Wasn't legal. Well, yes. So that's part one of this conversation. Part one, in the sense, I've no doubt it will be found that it was illegal. However, we know, you know and I know, and we all know, he will take no notice of something like the International Court of Trade, which brings it all back to the homeland. Okay, now, bear with me. This is very important. 2 days later, on May 15th, the Supreme Court has to consider to crack down on judges' powers at all levels that have federal impacts. In other words, we keep hearing stories where a judge here has said, no, for example, you can't just sack federal workers in this way. There was no due process. Not a lot of due process going on at the moment, is there? Apart from anything else and things like that then get used by other courts to make it a federal ruling. Okay. He stopped playing now. And before he would just let each case get to his tame Supreme Court. Now he wants the Supreme Court to actually issue a completely unprecedented legal thing, the end of the legal process in itself in the United States of America, by saying these courts can't make rulings that can then be rolled out and have further application. I mean, it's fully scary stuff, but he's been dancing around it. Even the legal eagles, to a certain extent, have been dancing around it because it's so horrifying to contemplate. So this is the first real acid test of the Supreme Court. They actually stood up 9-zip on the deportations only to have the White House say they won by 9-zip. Now, this is why the rest of the world is reeling. This is Banana Republic stuff. No offense to bananas. So this ruling it won't be a ruling on the 15th. Apparently it'll go into the summer, but they're hearing oral arguments basically saying courts don't have the power to issue national injunctions on anything. Okay, major case, and we'll keep an eye on this case. We'll keep an eye on this. Now, the Supreme Court, I guess the question is, will the Supreme Court stand up for other legal things with the threats on judges, the arrest of that judge, etc.? This is their time to stand up to him. Will they stand up to him? The Supreme Court on this. Will they stand up to him or not? Will they stand up to him? Will they stand up to him? It's really a big deal. Let's have a Wow. It's a big question. It's an important question. And this spread is revealing in all sorts of ways. I actually am a little bit more optimistic at the end. Well, a lot more optimistic at the end, but let's go through it because it starts with the tower. In other words, the Supreme Court realizes they actually can't put on their robes and pretend that they're dealing with a normal government who's right wing or something like that. Until now, they've sort of just gone, la, 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 we'll only deal with the issue in front of us, right? So some are good rulings, most are bad rulings, but they're dealing with what's in front of them. They actually know. They actually know this is a tower moment. They also know that the rights of every American are being stolen if they allow this to go forward. They know it. I'm pleased to report on these next cards, and God, I hope I'm right. Okay. There's a victory here, actually, for the people. The hard work that has gone into these cases will hopefully pay off in a victory in the Supreme Court because, look, here is the Hierophant, which is government, law and order, and the systems of power that are there allegedly to keep the public safe. The Hierophant is a very conservative card in the old-fashioned sense of this is how we do things. So you've got the courthouse and the White House here. So that's a relief. I hope that comes about. Now, like I said, it won't even happen till the summer, and we've all got a long way to go between now and then. And it will be crystal clear, I'm sure, to even the most head in the sand, dare I say, corrupt, allegedly, or whatever, Supreme Court officials. So now, let me pull some cards for you guys, because it's a tradition now, going forward. Let me just check my list. Oh, there was sending the military to seize public lands on the southern border. We talked about that, I think, in the last video, but I'll revisit it in the sense of where are the troops, right? But let's go now, letting go of all that stuff. Because at the end of the day, intrepid viewers, it's finding the balance between preserving your sanity, preserving your heart, preserving your health, looking after yourselves, at the same time as staying engaged so you can be effective in your own small way, medium way, big way, to be effective, to manage your life in this turmoil. Because for some people who they never engage in politics, whether the times are good or bad, and to some extent, I'll be honest and say I envy them. I wish I'd never heard the word. No, I don't. No, I don't. But I'm being facetious. But there are many people who just tune it out. This is the most important time in American history since white America was conceived as a place, an idea, and a thing, right? This is foundational stuff, and it's really, really maximum important to stay engaged. So my job, I feel, is to try and help you get that balance. So now we're going to go. Advice for the possums. Yeah. And thank God for the independent podcasters out there. They're doing an amazing job. This is for you guys. What do you need to know? You need to know. Okay. All right. Yes, that's how you feel. Oh, wow. This is interesting. I hadn't thought of things in this way. Okay. So first card, don't freak out. It's a really, really good card once you understand it. So, Eight of Swords, you look at this card and go, oh, yuck. Eight of Swords, oh, no. The figure feels like this. And so I'm sure you can identify with feeling, oh, what can I do? I'm only one person. There's all this craziness going on. Understandable. It's an understandable position to feel. But the message of the Eight of Swords is the water. Water in tarot represents your dreams, not just your dreams when you're asleep at night. It does mean those dreams, but your dreams of a life, your vision for yourself going forward before all this horror unfolded and sucked everyone's will, and sanity. It represents all the good, intangible things. It represents spirit. It represents imagination. And I've talked before in these moments about the arts and stuff. So if you can keep in touch with that and in fact build your spiritual identity and strength, then you can get out of these very loose bonds, take the blindfold off and walk out. Surrounded by swords, but you can walk out and you can walk free. Look at that. So I want you to think about that symbology. Now we'll come to the middle card. King of Pentacles, I think, represents big business in the traditional way. Like America already had dramatic wealth inequality long before Trump, etc., etc. This represents huge corporation and powerful businesses. And in a modern context, the broligarchy. Then you have the trumpet here representing the cold, hard side of that. So what they thought was a great combo. Why did they support him? Let's go back to basics. They supported him because they thought it meant lower taxes and deregulation. That's why they always support the Conservative candidate. But even they are in shock, right? These guys are even in shock. Okay, so you're wedged in. Understand this, the strength card. You contain the lion. You, the people, are the only ones who can tame the lion. These guys would shoot the lion, but they couldn't tame it, right? And this is your massive inner strength. And if we want to go into the spiritual domain, we could have the conversation about, did we all have soul contracts to come here at this time in history? But even if you don't actually believe all that stuff, um, we are here now and we have to develop our inner worlds. And look at that. This is the way out of this. So just look carefully at that image and just think about what strength is. Strength isn't always brute strength, it's inner strength. So by cultivating your own inner strength, you have more energy to help someone else who can then help someone else. And so kindness is exponential, just like courage. Guys. Oh. So on that note, let me know your thoughts. I've just done an interview with Erica Robinson. Her channel is In the Company of Cards, and we have a monthly conversation without cards. And we did one of those today. It'll probably be up soon. And don't forget, every Wednesday night, 7 p.m. EST, Hogalish, which is Hogarth, Lady G, Celtic Sheila, and myself, every Wednesday live. So subscribe to Hogarth's channel so you can be part of the live conversation. And I'll see you over there. So take care, guys. Take care. Be kind to yourself. Ciao.